Oh, we got something new in the mail today. Thank you to Gene Astro for this, because I've been really excited about trying out this product, because this is something that could be absolutely game-changing for anyone who is a budget astrophotographer, kind of like myself, because we all know this hobby is very expensive in other cases, but we got a new product that just came in, and you're going to be very surprised by how much this is. And this is all thanks to Askar Color Magic. This is a dual band filter of HA and O3, and then another one of O3 and S2. So essentially, for people who shoot with one-shot color cameras like myself, we can reenact kind of similar to what the mono guys are doing with creating the Hubble palette using hydrogen alpha, oxygen 3, and sulfur 2. But there is a big difference in between this and compared to some of the other competitors out there, like the Antlia set, which is a 5nm set, but looking at a whopping price with that set of being $680. And of course, Askar came out with another set recently, about a couple months ago, known as the Askar D2, which is about almost $600, but it has the band passes between 7 and 9 nanometers. But Askar really stepped it up this time with this set here, which, if you could guess how much this is, you'll be pleasantly surprised. No, it's not $600, it's not even $400, or not even $300. What if I told you this set here is under $200, and you can do Hubble palette with this? I know, that seems impossible, doesn't it? So we're gonna open it up here and see kind of what we're dealing with. Now, the really nice thing is, of course, Askar always loves to give these nice little cases hand, indicated of C1 and C2. C1 is being the HA03 filter, and the C2 is the S203. Now, the band passes on these, as a disclaimer, is not as precise as some of the other ones, like the 5nm from Antlia or the 7 to 9 from Askar they have. This one's a little bit wider band passes, but it can definitely benefit for multi-uses, no matter what focal length you are using. You can either use it on, like, my 4-inch refractor with a focal length of about f7. If I use the field flattener, or if I use a reducer down to 5.6, this will do just fine. But what if the people like myself who has a Rockinon 135 and like to stop it down to f2, a fast system? Now, the big problems with some of these other ones, especially if they're not made for that kind of fast focal ratio, you get something known as band shift. So then you're losing a lot of detail and a lot of band passes emitted by some of these nebulae, and your filter is only half working. So when you get something like this with a little bit wider band pass, you have the flexibility of being able to have an all-in-one filter, not only for your slower focal lengths, but also your fast focal length one. So this is something I'm really interested in trying. But if you kind of just want to have just the HA03 and you don't want to spend about $300 some for the L Extreme or the L Ultimate from Optolong, you can get these individually for $99 USD. Yeah, you got that right, $99 for a dual narrowband filter. And if you want to get either just the HA and O3, or if you want to mix it up and go with the S2 and O3 combined set, like I mentioned, $189. So definitely worth the try here. But we're going to put these to the test here tonight when we are going to be imaging with these filters and see how they perform, and if that price tag is just a gimmick or this is a real buster of a deal here. Alright, now that I have my camera apart and the filter wheel, we are going to be adding these filters to our imaging train, and I'm sure I get a lot of questions as to why are you using a filter wheel when you're using a one-shot color camera? Well, the thing is, I'm just lazy, and I don't feel like going out in the middle of the night just to change a filter, so automation is key. So let's go ahead and install these filters. Okay, the one filter I'm going to remove is the UV IR cutoff filter, because I already have the L quad from Optolong. Don't really need this one for right now, so we can make room for these other two filters. Loving the gold in this. So this is the C1 HA03. We're going to be putting that in slot 4. Now to talk about the band passes for this one here, for the C1 HA03. The HA is about a 15 nanometer bandpass, give or take 1 or 2 on each side of the spectrum, and the oxygen is a 35 millimeter bandpass, give or take 1 or 2 on each side of the spectrum as well. Very comparable to the L Enhance from Optolong. But when we're going over to the second filter, the C2, which is the O3 and S2, the sulfur side is very similar to the HA, which is about 15 nanometers bandpass either way, and with the oxygen going with 35 plus or minus 1 or 2 on each side of the spectrum as well. So it's basically the L Enhance, but you're getting sulfur instead of hydrogen alpha. So we're going to be installing this one as well here into slot number 5. Okay, filters are all installed here. Number 1, I have the L Quad Enhance from Optolong, which is the new version of the L Pro. I have the Optolong L Ultimate. This is a 3 nanometer bandpass. Going to be using that for my refractor for the most part. I also have and actually use the S203 from the Askar D2 set, which I combine that with my Optolong L Ultimate, and then we got the other two filters, 4 and 5, which are the brand new ones from Askar, for set $189. Alright, filters are installed. Let's get it back on the telescope itself and get ready to set up for this evening. Absolutely love how light this setup is. Just makes it so much easier. Alright, here is the rundown of what we're going to be using tonight. The main lens is going to be a Rokinon 135mm f2 is where I'm going to be having it at this evening. UMC, which is the Canon lens, which is combined with my ASI ZWO 2600 MC Pro one-shot color camera. Got the electronic focus wheel, which we're going to be using those two filters tonight, with the ASI Air Plus. That's going to be controlling all my imaging train. I got an SV Bonnie 30mm guide scope with the ZWO ASI 120 Mini for the guide camera, and it's going to be mounted using the ZWO AM5 with the pier extension and the carbon fiber tripod. So altogether, this weighs maybe about 4 pounds at most. It is a very, very light system, and I absolutely love it. Definitely highly recommend, and just the red aesthetic, I mean, you cannot go wrong with that. One thing I'm being hopeful this evening is these clouds. Hopefully they decide to disappear so we can get a nice test going for this evening. So, fingers crossed.
The next morning.
Alright, now that we're at the computer, last night we got about 6 hours worth of data between both of them. I got more for the C1 filter, the HA, and O3, because, well, clouds did come in very, very early in the morning, so I was only able to get about 4 hours or so on HA to O3 with the C1 filter, and about 2.5 hours with the S2O3, the C2, and right out of the stack with the HA and O3 filter, not too terribly bad of a signal. Yeah, we can definitely see on the outsides that there is a lot of some gradients because of the vivid full moon that we've been seeing is about 75%. I mean, most people won't even be imaging in this kind of stuff here, especially with band passes of about 15 for HA and 35 for O3. But after doing a quick background extraction, it took those gradients right out and then put the stars right back in. Doesn't look too bad for the most part. We got some decent signal around the Heart and Soul Nebula. You can see the fish head down there. Even got some decent signal to noise ratio over towards areas jetting out from the top. And then when we zoom in over towards the Soul Nebula, we got some decent detail for only about 4 hours of data. Now, going over to the C2, the signal is definitely not as strong, especially in sulfur and oxygen 3. Sulfur in general is a very weak signal anyway, and especially around this region too. You can kind of make out the outside of the Heart Nebula itself. You can see a little bit of some green on the inside. That is that oxygen signal, which oxygen signal, trying to image that with near full moon is not ideal anyway, no matter what kind of narrowband filter you have, but it did an okay job from the looks of it. Also did a background extraction on that, and it took those gradients right out. Now we are left with these two images here, and what we're going to be doing is splitting the channels between the two. We're going to be taking the red channel off of the C1 filter. That is going to be our hydrogen alpha. We're also going to be extracting the red channel out of the C2 filter, which will be our sulfur 2. But we're also going to be taking a combination of taking the blues and greens out of both, combining those together to get that extra oxygen 3 signal out of those. In fact, when we use the two filters, we will actually get double the amount of oxygen data because of using these two filters together, which is really cool since oxygen is normally the weakest signal and a little bit harder to get, especially when doing long-term astrophotography, and especially on more fainter objects in general. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Now that we split the channels up, we now have our hydrogen alpha, which is from the red channel on the C1 filter. We have S2, which is the red channel off of the C2 filter. And then what we did to get oxygen 3 is use both from the C1 and C2 filters, basically combining both the blue and the green channels together, which created oxygen 1 from the C1 filter, and then doing the same for the C2 with green and blue to get oxygen 2. And then I just took those together and combined them, and now we have our main oxygen channel here. Now the next thing we need to do is combine the channels, and then we can really start processing our image. Alright, now after combining the channels, we use an LRGB combination. I use the hydrogen
as the luminance. And of course, if we are going to be doing an SHO, the match the Hubble palette, we're doing sulfur in the red, green, hydrogen alpha, and B for oxygen. Add it together and you get something like this. Yeah, it is a little bit more on the green side right now, but we will be doing some further edits to it. But I did remove the stars to kind of see what kind of details we got going on here, and I must say, I am very impressed at the detail with only about 6 hours worth of data itself with these filters. You can see we have a nice area of the core of the heart. The fish head nebula looks pretty darn good. You can see a little bit of some sulfur around the outside of it. And then when we zoom over towards areas of the Soul Nebula, you see we got some of that nice structure on the inside. We got some decent looking oxygen, even though that we have a 75% moon when I was taking these shots. And all in all, I'm very impressed with this filter altogether, especially for this price point. This is fantastic. But we're going to keep editing this photo here, and I will show you the final project of what I come up with. After about spending about an hour on this image so far, just trying to mess with the colors. Now granted, I'm not the greatest when it comes to doing SHO coloring, but I must say, just for even the unfavorable conditions I had dealing with some high thin cirrus clouds, as well as dealing with an almost near full moon, especially doing this kind of imaging, I'm rather impressed, as a matter of fact, for the kind of detail shown in here. We got nice little core detail inside the Heart Nebula itself. You can see Millet 20 there, pretty nicely done in the middle. Fish Head Nebula is looking pretty good. We got some decent structure around the outsides, and then heading over towards the Soul Nebula, we got some good oxygen in the center. I mean, all in all, for a set that's under $200, you cannot go wrong for something like this, especially for your beginner or to someone who does not want to spend a whole bunch of money on trying to do some astrophotography and narrowband imaging. I mean, for this set here, even just for going with the HA03 filter, the C1 is very comparable to the Optolong L Enhance. You're comparing a price point of $99 compared to the L Enhance being over $200 for being the same wavelength band passes. If you wanted to just do that, that's a steal in itself. And then if you really want to spice up some color, to go with the C2 to get that sulfur and another band passes of some oxygen. I mean, this is a solid setup for the price, and I think Askar nailed it pretty much right on the head of what to expect for something of this magnitude and price point. A lot better than the competitors, I gotta say. So if you want to see a full tutorial on how to process narrowband images, just let me know down in the comments below, and hope everyone enjoyed this video, and hopefully it'll be able to give you some insight on snatching up this set here in general. I mean, for $189 for both filters, you cannot beat that. I'll have the link down below to where you can purchase these filters here, and I'll see you all next time.